Today, I will be presenting on Zara for my sustainability analysis. This was a tricky decision for me to come to based on my research because almost everything I read on Zara's website contradicted what people and other websites were saying about the company. All right, so let's get into it. First, I took into account some of Zara's claims. Some are on our screen. So we have Zara claims that 73% of the textiles that they are using are lower impact with the goal of reaching 100% by 2030. Their water policy promotes projects are moving towards more efficient water usage. They also have a goal to reduce their water usage by 25%. All right, these are just the ones I found most important. Zara's mission statement, however, is found under their Joint Life Initiative section of their page. Their first overall initiative statement discusses how they represent an effort towards continuous advancements to a more sustainable model and increasingly becoming more rigorous. They claim to be working on the different stages of their value chain with a holistic focus. They also say that this is all to help extend the life of garments. They say that reaching this goal implies a collaboration with their supply chain, environmentalists, NGOs, etc. While these claims are great, I found that everything they discussed looks great, but doesn't really tell us much or provide much evidence. All right, so next we're going to look into product sustainability. So on this slide, I just talked about how Zara's website makes many claims towards sustainability. However, there is little evidence to be found to back these up. They claim to be moving towards 100% sustainable fabrics by 2030. However, they say that they've acquired a stake in a startup that develops technology to grow cotton in a lab using cotton stem cells. They've signed an agreement to purchase a recycled polyester from textile waste, and they've also launched a Sustainability Innovation Hub, which is a platform that's committed to using new technologies, materials, and processes to limit the environmental impact of their products. However, their word choice is vague throughout the website. For example, they say they aim to use 100% linen and polyester with less environmental impacts, but simply say it will have a smaller impact on the environment. Finding any real evidence of most of this was challenging, or I simply wasn't able to. While the website makes large claims, almost every other website I have looked into says they're producing less than 50% of their materials sustainably currently. Additionally, this company's fast fashion rates have not slowed down in recent years. If anything, their production has increased. All right, so next we're going to look into their transparency. So on this slide, I talked about how it's difficult to find much information on the Zara website. Additionally, the number of resources that go into the production of their clothing is unknown, so therefore it's hard to take any of their claims very seriously because they are not quantified. However, I found them to lack transparency overall. It was difficult to find specific information on their website. Additionally, I was unable to find any real numbers to show for the numbers of resources they use. Almost all of the deeper Zara research on their website links to their parent company, Inditex. But that website was also challenging to navigate to find anything about Zara that was clear and straightforward. Furthermore, there are audits, although they are mentioned on their page, were not publicly visible, as well as their factory list. All right, so now we're going to get into the animals and people and the planet section. So for this slide, we're going to start with the animals. Zara's website is People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals certified. However, I cannot find whether this is accurate or when they became certified. So when I looked at other companies, other websites, they said they were not certified. However, they do claim to be in alliance with PETA. So I'm not sure how that one worked, but we'll get into that a little bit more. They also claim to ensure that animals are treated ethically and morally. They say they have obligations that all their products of animal origin came from animals that are treated ethically. They will not come from slaughterhouses just for their resources. Additionally, while if you look it up elsewhere, it says they are not PETA certified. They vaguely say that due to their commitments made with PETA, they do not sell anything made with real fur. All right, so now on to people. So this was the most controversial section, I would say. So there's a lot of accusations against Zara based on how they treat their workers. There's been stories of people in Brazil who said that they were treated awfully by the Zara company. There is also another one in Sweden that is one of the most recent ones that claims that they clock their bathroom breaks and force them to stand in single floor tiles to carry out their duties. Mostly, I think that people are where Zara can't control kind of the narrative of how things are going because people are able to speak up for themselves in ways that obviously the earth and animals cannot. Their website says they have a goal of doubling the number of people with disabilities in the workplace. Additionally, they say they mandate ethical and responsible behavior that focuses on employee protection. But again, however, I found many claims of poor conditions for workers, unfair compensation, and including many that date back to years ago. So their policies around 2011 to 2013 seem to be pretty different than what they claim to have as policies now. They also claim that they are working to advance to a circular model, starting with their supply chains. All right, so on to the planet. Zara claims to be working toward a more sustainable and circular model that reduces waste, promotes recycling, and extends the life cycle of its products. They are invested in innovation and partnerships that work to develop new materials and production processes. Additionally, Zara is committed to cutting its carbon emissions, transitioning to renewable energy, and reaching net zero by 2040. All right, so as I finished the last slide by saying, they claim to be advancing to a circular model. Additionally, they are working to reduce their carbon footprint by 90%, which seems like a lot, but it also doesn't tell us how much their carbon footprint was. They also have a goal to reduce the water compensation of their supply chain by 25% in 2025. However, they do not explicitly state if reducing by 25% would be a lot or if it would. And it's also hard to tell if this is a major improvement without transparency about how much they used prior to this. One major green flag I found for this company is packaging. They use recyclable packaging and baggage made from craft to corrugated, I wasn't sure of the word, paper. Furthermore, clothes can be brought back to Zara or shipped back and recycled. They claim that these recycled clothes are either used or resold. However, again, it's difficult to tell if this increases the clothing's lifespan by much. All right, so overall, based on my research, I believe their goals are ambitious and headed in the right direction. However, currently they are not doing enough yet. Based on outside research, they have a lot of to improve upon, and while they have many good goals and initiatives, some areas need more improvement and focus than others. With that being said, I rated Zara as a 3 on my good on you rating scale. They seem to be trying to be transparent and have a lot of good policies and efforts in place to hopefully meet their goals. Until some of their goals are met, however, I think it's simply a good start. We can't actually tell if they are accomplishing anything without evidence. And on my final slide, I just have my resources.